keep on confusing people, and that is what we call an offer letter and an employment contract. Most of you, you've thought that having an offer letter, you already have a job with that company, which may not be the case. Most of you will agree with me, you've had offer letters, but even the visa processing itself has failed you, and you're still waiting until the visa now is not yet processed. Yes, don't hesitate to give him a follow. Yes, we are looking at living in Qatar, the basics of living in Qatar. How do we get to navigate the small intricacies that definitely can help us to live in this country? Yes, we are looking at different terms. Most of you come across most of different things that are holding documents, but you may not know exactly what these documents mean. Yes, again, I came across two different terms that keep on confusing people, and that is what we call an offer letter and an employment contract. Most of you, you've thought that having an offer letter, you already have a job with that company, which may not be the case. Most of you will agree with me, you've had offer letters, but even the visa processing itself has failed you, and you're still waiting until the visa now is not yet processed. Yes, let us try to go and analyze and see what is the difference between what you call an offer letter and what you call an employment contract in Qatar, according to the labor laws. When you look at both documents, the employment contract and what you call an offer letter, both are very important documents when it comes to the employment process according to the labor laws or according to the laws in Qatar. However, something that you definitely should understand, that these two documents, the offer letter and what you call the employment contract, these two documents, each of them serves a different purpose, and each of them carries a different legal weight according to the law. And we are looking at law number 14 of 2004 and its amendments. When you look at what you call an offer letter, the purpose of an offer letter is primarily outlining what you call the agreement, the basic terms of that job that you are going to be recruited for. It is normally issued to employees before joining. If the company has an interest in you or the company has an interest in your service, then it's going to issue what you call an offer letter, showing its interest to take over your service or to recruit you for that particular role. However, something that definitely should understand, there are what you call contents. What are some of those contents definitely you should find in what you call an offer letter? We are still talking about an offer letter. One, we look at what you call the job title and description. We look at salary, we look at the work location, joining date, working hours, and also we look at a duration to some periods where it is applicable. That is why some of you are asking me when it comes to coming to what you call change of sponsorship, whereby if you have this an old offer letter, then it will help you to do what you call sponsorship change without even requiring to have approval or looking for what you call an employment contract, which some of you may not have got from what we call your employers. Yes, let us try to look at some of these legal status under what you call the Qatar labor law. When you look at legal status under the Qatar labor law, when you look at an offer letter, it's not binding. Yes, it's not binding, and on its own, it's not a contract. Yes, usually an offer letter is used for what you call processing the visa by the Ministry of Labor. Yes, once signed by both parties and approved by what you call the Ministry of Labor, and it matches what you call the employment contract, that is why you find its illegal status under the law stands at that table. However, something that definitely you should understand, when you look at the Qatar Ministry of Labor requirements, an employment contract to reflect exactly the same details stated in what you call an offer letter has a way to protect what you call the employee. Most of you will agree with me that you've had offer letters, but when you come to the contract, it's contrarily what was in what we call, it was in contrarily in what we call the offer letter when it comes to the contract. Okay, let us try to look at what we call an employment contract itself. Unemployment contract is what you call a legal binding agreement between what you call the employee and what you call the employer. It legally binds both of you, the employer and what you call the employee. And the contents, what you call the contents of that employment contract, it should include the following: full details of the duties of that job. It should include the salary and benefits, then working hours and overtime, leave entitlements, termination conditions, grievances and disciplinary procedure, probation period, non-compete clause, if any. That is where most of you've not taken a very keen eye, or you've not taken a very keen paying detail to what you call unemployment contracts. And most of the contracts for some occupations, you may find them, they have what you call a non-compete clause. I've talked about the non-competing clause, the non-compete clause for several times in particular sectors of the of employment. They may not allow you to change to one job to another. Let us try to look at the legal status under the Qatar labor law. What is the legal status of what you call an employment contract? First of all, it is binding and enforceable in court when you have an employment contract. Yes, most issues, if failed to agree, both of you, the employee and the employee, outside the normal procedure, you can still go to court. However, the difference between the two and the offer letter you cannot go to court because it's not binding and it's not enforceable in court. Then the legal status of the unemployment contract, it must be written in Arabic, bilingual, allowed by what you call the Arabic should be able to prevail. But bilingual it should have another language. It's an Arabic, but there should be an interpretation for you before you sign. It is allowed. If you feel that you are not contented with the contents of unemployment contract given to you to sign, you have the right to ask for what you call an interpretation. Though some of us, we've not been able to have that opportunity, or we've not been able to have that opportunity to do that. Then it must be registered with what you call the Ministry of Labor. Yes, unemployment contract, it must be registered with the Ministry of Labor. Though some of you've never seen the employment contract for the number of years that you worked in these companies, let's say 7 or 10 years, you've never seen such kind of the contract. Yes, most of us, maybe the employees may not be able to ascertain the contracts for you, but however, also us, we may not have the interest for us to look for our employment contracts because you think they're not very important to us, which may be another context. So before we get to blame the employers, also we can also look at on our side. Have we given that mandate, or have we tried to put that kind of request at the table to see that we can have our contracts? Then the question rises between you and me. Then what you need to understand, the employment contract protects the rights of what you call both the parties as according to the law. It protects your right, you the employee, then it also protects the right of what you call the employer. That's why you find that if any of the two parties disagree in any moment, yes, one has to give what you call a notice period, or has to notify another in lieu for that period, such that he can be able to prepare. So let us try to look at what are the key differences. Yes, someone would ask me, how can you definitely identify that, or what are the differences that would separate, that would enable you to understand what we call an offer letter and what we call an employment contract? Yes, let us try to look at what you call the futures, the offer letter, and the employment contract. I'll give you my own summary that I prepared for you. When you look at the purpose, let us try to look at the purpose. The purpose of both documents. The purpose, initial job proposal. For the offer letter, it is an initial job proposal, someone willing to take over you. Then unemployment contract, it becomes a formal legal employment agreement. Let us try to look at the legal binding status. Yes, an offer letter is not legally binding alone, and an employment contract is legally binding and enforceable in what you call the court. Yes, when it is signed, when is it supposed to be signed? An offer letter is supposed to be signed before joining. Before joining, then unemployment contract, it is after the visa approval and when upon what you call starting what you call work. Then what you call the detailed terms, yes. When you look at an offer letter normally gives you what you call the basic terms only. And when it comes to the full employment contract, it will give you what you call the full rights and what you call obligations. Yes, when we look at the ministry approval required, yes, the ministry approval is required for an offer letter for what you call the visa process or application. Yes, for unemployment contract, it's also required for what you call employment registration. Then let us try to look at language. Yes, when you look at language, it's normally, or most of the times, any, but usually it is in English. Then when you look at what you call employment contract, it's normally Arabic and has an official version, which is Arabic, and normally there is what you call an interpretation of that sort that may be given to for you to understand well in case you need a translation. Yes, let us try to look at important notes for workers in Qatar. Yes, most of you will agree with me. Yes, most of you will come here or will come into these Gulf countries. But what are the takeaways? What are the most important notes that you need to understand? Yes, always ask for both what you call an offer letter and what you call the employment contract, such that you can be able to find out whether both what is given in the employment contract is what was given in what we call the offer letter. Then also ensure, most of the times, most of you've not tried to take SWOT analysis. Yes, we'll find out most of our friends or most of us will come on what you call a freelancing visa coming here, but definitely you do not even what we call, no, you do not even have an employment contract for your case. Or in other, someone did an employment contract for you because you do not need a contract in any way or the other, but ensure that both of the employment contract and the offer letter both are what you call exactly and have the same details. Then also keep copies of both documents for any further reference. In any case, keep the offer letter and also keep what you call the employment contract. Then if the employment contract differs from what you call an offer letter, yes, the contract prevails unless it violates what you call the law. Yes, some of you have gone through that kind of scenario, and that's exactly what definitely should understand for the person who was asking me regarding that. Thank you so much. Remember, always mix from the next